Welcome. I'm so glad you could be with us today. In this series, we're going to cover key financial concepts that we teach our clients in these educational sessions with our advisors to help them take a different look at their money. And these philosophies are going to either be reviewed by our existing clients, or if you're new to us, stay tuned in, watch this series, and you may want to get in touch with us after. But if not, I promise you these will change the way you view money. Now, this specific video is going to be on retirement and why early retirement isn't going to work out for you. Now, in all our videos, what we're going to cover are the key things that are a part of our philosophy that have gotten us picked up in interviews by Forbes, Entrepreneur, Inc., what's talked about in our book, what we cover in our podcast, Sound Financial Bites, which you can find more about down in the description. And all we want to do is make sure you've got everything you need, because we can't work with everyone. Everybody has to apply to become a client of our firm, and because we cannot work with everyone, we just want to make sure everyone has a chance to be able to get some of this sound financial advice. So glad you could be here. Let's talk about why early retirement isn't going to work out for you. It all started back with the Social Security Administration. Now think about this. Before 1937, when they rolled out Social Security, we had a very different way of looking at older people inside of our society. If you remember from history class in high school, way back, just take 100 years ago, it was totally normal that if you were a young person, what you did is you sought out the sage advice of your elders. You wanted them to be a part of your business opportunities. You wanted them to give you advice about your family and your future. And the beginning of Social Security began this concept that what somebody would do is they would get old and retire. Like we would retire an old set of shoes, perhaps retire an old tired shirt or jacket. We put it away, we throw it away, it's no longer of any use. And that lexicon has really become such a big part of our culture. In fact, one of the major problems is that everybody is out there working, or too many people, I would say, are out there working every day so that they can retire. Now, that may work in some occupations that are absolutely back-breaking work. But for many of you watching this, you have a career where you're building unique knowledge, you have huge networks, and you might be in your 60s at the top of that game. In fact, through your 40s and 50s, you're continuing to build that. So what you wouldn't want to do is just be done. Why would you want to work for 30 or 40 years to then build this enormous network of knowledge and get really specialized at what you do just to hang it up and be complete and be done? Now we have to think for a second, well, Paul, you're saying Social Security is what impacted that, but Social Security isn't that much money. And that's true today. At some point in the past, due to inflation and the fact that the government could not give people as much of this pension because of longer mortality, what's clearly occurred is that it's been held in place by somebody else. Well, what's held this idea of retirement in place? Well, it's the financial institutions. The financial institutions have really desired that what we would do is relate to our older age as being put away up on a shelf, no longer of any use, because if we continue to accept that, then what's naturally going to occur is we're going to build up a lot of assets that we're going to keep with these financial institutions. You've heard this saying over and over again. We're going to teach it later in this series that you need to have a big pile of money to be able to have enough income for the rest of your life. And that may be accurate, but it doesn't have anything to do with an age. For instance, am I just going to stop bringing value to the marketplace, stop doing what I love, which is the public speaking, doing videos like this one, doing our podcast, or coaching high-income clients one-on-one? Why would I do that just because I've hit my number? That makes no sense. If I love it, why would I want to stop? But the financial institutions have really wanted to continue to purvey that. Now, why is that? Well, for them, what they would like us to do are things like just build up a ton of money. We're going to build up a big stack of assets. And in fact, it would also be normal, and you look around, people do it all the time, people just abdicate what it is that they need to do with their money to somebody else. It might be their spouse, it might be an institution, or it might be an advisor. And we think we've got to just have this huge stack of money to be able to live off of one day. But what I want you to consider is, what are the rules the financial institutions are operating under? Well, what do they want to do? Ideally, they would like to get our money, meaning have us make deposits. They'd like those to occur on a reoccurring regular basis. Then once we put that money with the institution, they'd like to hold on to it for as long as they can. And when they give it back, they'd like to give it back as slowly as possible over the longest possible horizon of time. So now we're not going to, like a bad scene in the movie Breaking Bad, or a great scene in Breaking Bad when the tarp uncovers a huge pallet full of money and they're looking at it and they don't even know how much it is or what it's going to do for them. That will come later in this series when we talk about that clip. But they sit there and say, well, what are we going to do with all this money? We've got this big stack of money. Well, we're not going to build up our assets that way, but the institutions would like us to build it up inside of their financial tools. And if what we've got to do is have a target of building up said amount of money, and that's going to happen mostly in tools we can't even access until past age 60, early retirement isn't going to happen for you. So what we need to be able to do is take into account that this is the natural way we've been taught. It's the cultural common sense about money. And later in this series, we're going to talk about what you can do differently to step outside of that cultural common sense and put you and your family in the place where you're not going to retire early, but you are going to reach definite financial independence. We'll see you next time.
Corey here. If this video was valuable to you and you want to learn how our philosophies can apply to your specific situation, email me at info@sfgwa.com and I will absolutely coordinate a call with Paul, myself, or one of our other advisors.